Bryce Laspisa's car was found wrecked near Castaic Lake. Bryce was not inside. On the morning of August 30th, 2013, a Toyota Highlander was discovered down an embankment off Lake Hughes Road in Southern California. The vehicle had crashed near Castaic Lake, north of Los Angeles. In most crashes, the first question is how badly the driver was hurt. In this case, responders were faced with something stranger. The driver was gone. There was no body in the SUV, no injured 19-year-old waiting nearby, no clear explanation for how the vehicle ended up there, or why the person who had been driving it had vanished. Inside the Highlander were Bryce Laspisa's belongings: his phone, his wallet, his laptop, clothes, and other personal items. The things someone usually keeps close when they are traveling home. The things someone would need if they plan to keep moving. But Bryce was not there. The discovery ended a long, confusing drive that had already alarmed his family. Bryce had been expected at his parents' home in Laguna Niguel long before dawn. His parents knew he was on the road. They had spoken with him during the trip. They knew he was supposed to be coming south from Northern California, and they knew something was wrong. Bryce David Laspisa was 19 years old when he disappeared. He grew up in Laguna Niguel in Orange County, and by 2013, he was attending Sierra College in Rockland, north of Sacramento. He had a family, a girlfriend, school, and the structure of an ordinary young adult life. That is one reason the case remains so difficult. Bryce was not someone who vanished without anyone noticing. He was not unreachable for days before concern began. The people closest to him were aware of the problem while it was happening. They were calling him. They were waiting for him. They were trying to get him home. The drive from Rockland to Laguna Niguel is long, but it is not complicated. It usually follows Interstate 5 through California. Agricultural towns, truck stops, open stretches of highway, and the steep descent through the Grapevine toward Los Angeles. Under normal conditions, it can take 7 or 8 hours. Bryce's trip took far longer. In the days before he disappeared, people close to Bryce reportedly noticed changes in his behavior. Public accounts describe him acting unusually, giving away some possessions, and dealing with tension in important relationships. Reports have also mentioned alcohol use and the prescription stimulant Vivanza. Those details do not solve the case. They do not prove what Bryce was thinking or what he intended to do. But they explain why people around him were worried before the crash ever happened. His girlfriend reportedly saw behavior that concerned her enough to contact his mother, Karen. Bryce's parents were not distant from the situation. They were speaking with him and trying to decide whether he was safe, whether he should drive, and whether he needed to come home immediately. The hope was simple: get Bryce to Laguna Niguel, talk to him in person, and figure out what was going on. But the timeline did not unfold that way. On August 28, 2013, Bryce was still in Northern California. The full sequence of that evening comes from family accounts, phone calls, and later reporting. But the main outline is clear. People close to him were concerned. His mother was contacted. There were conversations about whether Bryce should remain where he was or begin the drive south. Eventually, Bryce set out, or at least told his family he was on his way. By the early hours of August 29th, he was expected to be traveling towards Southern California. If the trip had gone normally, he should have reached his parents' home by morning or early afternoon. Instead, he stopped in Buttonwillow. Buttonwillow is a small community in Kern County off Interstate 5, For most drivers, it is a place to get gas, food, or rest before continuing. It is not a destination. It is a pause along the route. For Bryce, that pause lasted for hours. Reports indicate that he ran out of gas or needed roadside assistance near Buttonwillow. A service worker brought fuel to his vehicle. Bryce's father reportedly spoke with that worker and asked whether Bryce seemed all right. According to public accounts, Bryce did not appear visibly injured or in immediate danger. He seemed physically capable of continuing. That should have ended the delay. He had fuel. The freeway was nearby. His parents were waiting. But Bryce did not continue home. For reasons that have never been publicly explained, he remained in the Buttonwillow area for hours. His parents expected him in Laguna Niguel, but he stayed in the same general place, along the same corridor of Interstate 5, while the day slipped away. There is no public evidence that explains exactly what Bryce was doing during that long stop. No note. No confirmed statement that resolves it. No proof that someone was preventing him from leaving. That gap is one of the central problems in the case. Bryce was not untraceable. He was not off the map. He was located in a known area, on a known route, with people actively trying to reach him. And still, the trip stalled. By the evening of August 29th, Bryce finally left Buttonwillow and continued south. His parents remained in contact with him by phone. He was now heading toward the Grapevine, the section of Interstate 5 that drops from the mountains into the Los Angeles area. At night, that route can feel isolated. The road is fast. Truck traffic is heavy. The grade is steep. For someone already tired, delayed, or distressed, the drive could become difficult. In the early morning hours of August 30th, Bryce spoke again with his mother. Public accounts place one of the last known calls around 2 a.m. He was near the Castaic area, north of Los Angeles, closer to home than he had been all day. But he still had not arrived. According to reporting on the case, Bryce said he was tired or might pull over. His parents believed he might stop safely and continue later. They did not know this would become the last known stretch of his timeline. Sometime after that call, Bryce's Toyota Highlander left the roadway near Castaic Lake and went down an embankment off Lake Hughes Road. The crash was discovered later that morning around dawn. The Highlander was damaged. Bryce was gone. The vehicle became the last fixed point in the case. It proved that Bryce had reached the Castaic area. It also created the contradiction that still defines his disappearance. The car was there. His belongings were there. But Bryce was not. Searches began in the area around Castaic Lake. The terrain includes roads, brush, embankments, and water. If Bryce had left the vehicle injured, confused, or disoriented, he could have moved away from the crash scene before anyone arrived. Authorities searched on the ground. Dogs were reportedly used. Divers searched portions of the lake. Investigators considered whether Bryce had wandered off after the crash, entered the water, or encountered another person. No confirmed trace of him was found. That absence keeps the case open. If Bryce survived the crash and walked away, where did he go? If he was injured, why did no search locate him? If he left voluntarily, why leave behind the phone, wallet, laptop, and clothing that would have made survival easier? Over the years, the wreck itself has been examined again and again because it is the last physical evidence tied to Bryce. Public reports have discussed the rear window of the vehicle and whether Bryce could have exited through it. but the available public information has not produced a final reconstruction that explains every detail of the crash or what happened afterward. What remains undisputed is narrower and more unsettling. The SUV was found, and Bryce was missing. Several theories have been discussed, but none fully explains the known facts. One theory is that Bryce intentionally disappeared. The idea is often connected to reports that he had been acting unusually before the drive, that he may have given away possessions, and that people close to him were concerned enough to contact his mother. The long delay in Buttonwillow also raises questions. A person in emotional crisis might hesitate, stall, and make decisions that do not make sense to anyone else. But this theory has major problems. Bryce was in active contact with his parents. He was expected home. There is no publicly confirmed note or direct statement showing that he planned to vanish, and he left behind possessions that would have been useful if he intended to start a new life. Another theory is that Bryce crashed, survived, and wandered away while injured or disoriented. This explanation fits several facts. He had been driving late after a long and strange delay. He was near Castaic in the early morning. The vehicle went down an embankment. If he got out after the crash, confusion or panic could have led him away from the road before help arrived. But this theory also remains incomplete. Searches in the area did not find Bryce. No confirmed remains, clothing, or other trace has been publicly identified. In rugged terrain, a search can miss someone, but the lack of any confirmed discovery leaves the theory unresolved. A third possibility is foul play, either after the crash or somewhere along the timeline. Bryce was alone, traveling at night, and the moments after the crash are unwitnessed in the public record. Someone could have come upon him. Someone could have offered help. Something could have happened that left no clear trail. But there is no confirmed suspect. No public forensic evidence has tied another person to his disappearance. No proven struggle has been made public. Foul play remains possible because the evidence is missing, not because the evidence clearly points to it. That is the difficult truth of the Bryce Laspisa case. The known facts are specific, but they stop at the worst possible moment. Bryce was in Northern California. He was expected home in Laguna Niguel. He delayed for hours in Buttonwillow after needing fuel or roadside help. He eventually continued south. He spoke with his mother near Castaic in the early morning. Then his Toyota Highlander crashed near Castaic Lake. After that, the trail ends. There have been reported tips and possible sightings over the years, as in many missing person cases, but none has been publicly confirmed as Bryce. His family has continued searching. He remains listed as missing. The case still turns on one concrete contradiction. The car was found. The belongings were found, but Bryce was not. Where did Bryce Laspisa go after the crash at Castaic Lake? Follow Whispered Cases for a new case every week. Subscribe so you never miss one.